Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is the best ways for how you can effectively prepare for New World's Mutation update, which we should be seeing towards the end of January, and as a lot of you will know, is already on the PTR. And today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is kind of the best ways you can prepare in terms of what to save, what to stockpile, things that you should grind ahead of the update so that you can beat the curve, and a few things that you should kind of keep an eye out for if you can get them on the cheap before this update drops, because once this update does drop, as with most of these updates, you are going to see a big rise in the market price of an awful lot of items, and you're going to see a lot of things be way more sought after than what they are now. So hopefully this video can help you guys to get as prepared as possible for this upcoming update. Now, if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please make sure that you do so. Thank you all very, very much for the recent support. We did hit 12.7k subscribers since yesterday's video, which is absolutely huge. So a massive thank you for that one. We are pushing for 13,000. So if you guys could help support me do that, that would be amazing. And without further ado, let's jump into this one here. So the first thing is going to be getting your faction reputation to the maximum. Now, on the server that we're on here, the PTR, you guys will see mine's pretty low down. I'm basically haven't even done any. But you're definitely going to want to be hitting this cap here at the, obviously, 49,000 reputation, which is tier 5 of whichever faction you are in. And once you've done this, you're going to want to make sure that your faction tokens is at cap at least a day or two before this update goes live. Now, the reason for this is because the mutation keys, as well as being able to craft them, which I'll touch on in a later point, you can also buy them from the faction vendor. And as it stands right now, bear in mind, this is, of course, the PTR build. But it is right here, Mutated Expedition Tuning Orb, 10,000 tokens and 1,000 gold. So the following tips will address some good ways that you can potentially make some money, but the faction tokens are just going to be grinding out those faction quests, and you are going to want to make sure that you've got a stockpile of those so that when this drops, you can go ahead and instantly buy a few in order to be able to run them through and hopefully get yourselves up those mutation ranks. Now, if you get some friends to do this as well, you could be onto a very nice little thing. One thing I would note, though, is it has got an egg timer in the bottom left of it currently, so I don't know what the maximum you can buy per week or per day is, but there is some sort of cap there as well, so bear that in mind. The more you've got stockpiled, the more you can get this cap done every single time, because chances are it's probably going to be lower than the 10 that you would need if you finish them all in one run. So you're going to want to get as many as you can. Now, the next thing here is going to be stocking up on tier 5 gems or gemstone dust that is tier 5. Now, the reason for this is because in the craft for the brand new expedition tuning orbs, you do actually need 10 gemstone dust. So if we go down here, it's actually this bottom one, which you can see just underneath the camera, Mutated Expedition Tuning Orb, and this bad boy is on here, and you need 10 powerful gemstone dust, which is of course the tier 5 variant. Now, this hasn't been used in any previous crafting, and you know, this is something that people won't catch on to straight away. Now, bear in mind, you can only craft one of these per week. Yes, for some reason, it is on a weekly cooldown right now, which seems a little bit too much, especially considering the cost of the other ones. But we'll see if this changes again. Of course, you will need to level up your stone cutting in order to do this. And again, I'll touch on that in just a moment here. But the gemstone dust is something which hasn't yet been required for anything really other than PvP. So if you are able to get your hands on some of this for the cheap, or at least the tier 5 gems to be able to make this on the cheap, then certainly go ahead and do that. Now, the secondary thing for this is, of course, the actual gemstone dust itself. If we scroll down to it in my inventory here, you guys will see I've actually got it in my hotbar, there we go. And it says increases absorption of elemental damage types by 35% for 20 seconds or until damage is received 15 times. Now, really, that is a very PvP orientated item until we go ahead and get the mutations. Now, the reason this is going to be super good in the mutations and now finally can be used in PvE effectively is because the way that the mutations work is either a fire, an ice, a void, or a nature mutation on that dungeon, and as such the enemies will do elemental damage representing that element, or they will do kind of elemental resistance there. But generally, going off the Dynasty Shipyard fire, for example, they drop a fire AoE on you, and if that's in a really bad spot, especially if you're the tank and you really can't break position, then dropping one of these can save your life until your healer can get on you, until the AoE kind of despawns, or until you can effectively move the boss that you're fighting or the mobs that you're fighting, or indeed if you get targeted by mobs and you're not the tank, but you get one of those dropped on you, you can't really move, you get rooted for whatever reason, dropping one of these can save your life, and going for those timed runs where you're not going for any respawns, you're not trying to lose time, this is going to be essential to use, so make sure you're stocking up on that well ahead of this update. Now, the next thing that I hark on about every single time we see an update with some sort of new dungeon type thing, and I've talked about this a lot in my preparation for this update before we knew the official kind of upcoming date of it as such, which should be in a week or two's time, is going to be getting your trade skills up, and the most important one, of course, is your stone cutting. Now, this one right here is obviously the PTR, so it's level 200. You guys can see all of the stuff that's unlocked. The reason for it mainly is going to be because you want to be able to craft your runestone, but now the mutated tuning orbs also require you to have this at level 200, which has never been the case for tuning orbs before. The highest before was Lazarus, as you guys can see on this list here, which was 150. So now we actually do need physically to be at 200 in order to be able to craft these. So do bear that in mind. And also your runestone, generally these are pretty expensive on every server, so if you have managed to get your crafting up to 200 on your stone cutting here, it's going to save you a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and also 10,000 faction tokens and 1,000 gold, because you're not going to have to buy one of those. Now, do bear in mind you are going to have to take a chisel, which is 500 gold, so you're still paying 500, so maybe it really only saves you about 500 gold, but it is still much better than paying the full price, plus the faction tokens, which is what you're saving on there as well. The next thing you will want to do is start trying to get yourself some solid best in slot if you can find it, or just at least some very, very great items for PvE. Legendary 600 gear score items before this update drops. Now, the reason for saying that is the way you progress things, as you can see just up here on my chest plate, this is 603. You have to start off with an item that is 600 gear score and an expertise level of 600. Now, I will kind of touch on that a little bit in a second here, but having something that's good for PvE that is 600 gear score ahead of the update may save you quite a lot of money, as once this does go live, everybody is going to be buying legendaries, even the rubbish ones, if they've got a couple of good perks on. If it's good for PvE, they're going to get snapped up like instantly like that, because people are really going to need them in order to get to 625 gear score, and you will need to start progressing that gear score as you get progression through these mutation variants, +1, +2, +3, etc. Once you get up to +3 and beyond, you're really going to need to start getting your gear score up across the board. So for that, people are going to be buying these legendaries. Now, obviously on the PTR, I've got a full legendary inventory here, but if we look at something like the ring here, it's hidden the icon by the camera, but you can see just the right hand side here. This one is Leeching, Hearty and Keen Awareness. I'm never going to get anything as good as this on the live, or not for at least a long, long time. But if you do manage to roll something like this, or you can buy one for a cheap enough price, this is something that I would consider to be best in slot, as in it's got the best ability perks on, it's got a stat that can be used on any class, so Constitution is always going to be used, and Wilderness Ward, again, is a really, really good one. It gives physical and elemental damage absorption, so it's a lovely, lovely piece. If this was on live, this would be the piece exactly what I'm looking for. Try and pick some of those up so that you can get yourselves a really good position, so that when this does drop, you can start working that up towards the 625 with the Umbral Shards you start to receive. Now, linking onto that, like I said, it does also require that you have an expertise of 600, which will be the new maximum when this update drops. So my advice ahead of this update will be to make sure you get your expertise up to that 590 on everything you are currently using and anything that you plan to use when this update goes live. For example, if you are a hatchet great axe user, but you're thinking you might switch to the spear when you go into these mutated expeditions, get your spear up to 590 so that if you get a good one, you can start progressing that to 600 as soon as the update drops, and then in turn progress that to 625 as well, as that is going to be really, really crucial for getting higher up in these mutation levels. The next thing that I want to talk about here is starting to organize a group of players to play with. Like you can see here, I've gone for bow and spear in this PTR version. On the main live servers currently, I'm running Great Axe and Warhammer. That's really my PvP build, but I've started to put together a PvE set for a strength-based setup as well, and this is going to be really, really important. Start organizing yourself and start organizing a group to play with, because as the difficulty levels increase, even honestly Mutation 1 and 2, you're going to need people that know what they're doing, are prepared for PvE. They're not just running a random set with luck on or whatever. For example, they need to actually be in good gear, and people who can, you know, effectively tank, effectively heal, play DPS without drawing the aggro away and such like that. And that is something that's really, really crucial. If you do want a bit more of an in-depth video, an in-depth guide to that, check out yesterday's video, which I'll leave on screen linked for you guys now. And that video covers everything that you can do to get the ideal setup and tips and tricks for that for the upcoming update as well. Now finally here, the brand new elemental attunement and elemental absorption perks are probably going to be best in slot, at the very least for PvE, but also probably for PvP as well. So for example here, you have this one and this one. These are the brand new ones. The Smoldering Weapon Shard is the Flame variant, so you've again got your Flame, Ice, Nature and Void. This one gives you Flame Attunement, which is where attacks deal an additional 15% weapon damage as fire, and this would be the same for whichever element you get it dropped from when the mutation is active. And this is on a 2-second cooldown. Essentially means that every attack you do, you know, bearing in mind, you've got to wait 2 seconds for the cooldown, but basically every other attack you do, let's say, or every ability you do, is going to have 115% weapon damage as a base stat if you have this craft mod on, or if you have this perk on a piece of armor or weapon, which is nuts. So you're certainly going to want to get this if you do manage to get these crafting mods. Luckily, like I have in the PTR, when the game drops live, these are going to sell like hotcakes. You're going to make a big amount of cash off of these, and to be perfectly honest, you're probably going to want to keep them yourself. 115% weapon damage is absolutely crazy. And then pairing with that, then you also have the Flame Conditioning, or whichever element conditioning, which is after being hit with that element damage, you gain a 4% absorption to the element for 5 seconds. Now each armor piece that this perk has on increases the potency of the effect, essentially meaning that if you have it on all 5 pieces, you'll have 20% resistance for 5 seconds every time you get hit by that damage. So of course that would negate the damage you do if you had, for example, a sword and shield with the flame conditioning on and somebody had flame attunement on the weapon. They wouldn't deal that extra 15% damage to you, but they wouldn't take that any further. But what I would watch out for is if you are currently playing mage, for example, ice, fire, Void Gauntlet, all of those things, and also life staff damage, because we're seeing a nature version of these mutations be involved as well. That damage, if you get a full set on with 20% reduction, that's going to be across the board when they get hit by that type of damage, which is anytime you attack with those weapons. So it's kind of a bit of a nerf to any elemental attackers, so do bear that in mind. It's not going to be very, very common at the start, and it will take people a long, long time to get a full best-in-slot set with this stuff on. But because it's a craft mod, remember that we do have those timeless shards, so people can start rolling for very, very good pieces of gear with this on. So we could start to see that being kind of the best thing to run in wars. I would expect it's probably the best thing. And certainly the weapon attunement perks is going to be one of the best things you can run for just base extra damage in all situations. So bear that in mind, and I would not like to be a mage right now in New World. That is going to be it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you have, please do be sure to leave me a like on the video down below, as it really does help to support me and my content here on the channel. Let me know what your thoughts about these brand new perks and all of this new upcoming attunement system, and of course your Umbral Shards, your Expedition Mutations, etc. in the comments down below. And if you are new to the channel, like I mentioned at the start of today's video, please do make sure that you're dropping a subscribe down below as well, as we are pushing close to 13,000 subscribers, and your support in helping me reach that goal will be absolutely unreal. Again, if you want to join in with some of the live action fun that we have over on Twitch, we're live every other day or so right over there at the moment, so make sure you go and head over there. The link is on screen for you guys now. It is twitch.tv/Invin with 3 N's, because somebody stole the original and then the 2 N version, so we got 3. So go ahead and follow me over there if you do want to join in with the live action as well. And other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today's episode. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, thank you for your time, and I will catch you again tomorrow with another upload. Take care, guys, and peace.